How's that? Is that a little bit better? Okay. You can see my face, you can see my eyes, you see the reflection of the screen. That's the challenge here.
That's okay.
With wearing glasses. Okay, well, again, thank you. Just a kind of a passing thought, I guess you will. My thoughts sometimes come to me that way at random. Thinking about this idea that none of us experience each other's reality. We have a perception that we see the same things as you do and experience things the same way, but we know that that's not actually the way it works. That no two people experience the same thing the same way. And I got to thinking about this idea of singing and chanting together. Is that actually it came to me as singing, but it also applies to when we chant together. Something that silent meditation doesn't necessarily provide. And that is this merging, if you will, of realities. Think about it. I'm chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. That's my reality. You're chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, and that's your reality. The shared experience is how we each perceive the melding of the two Namu Myoho Renge Kyos together. Of course, here in this cyber land, we don't get that experience because of the lag in the signal transmission and reception. And so you all are muted and I do not hear you all. You all hear me and you hear yourselves. I'm guessing that you don't have me muted. You could. That would be okay. Might not know where I am, but so in a way, this is a unified experience. It's a way for us to step into a shared reality at maybe as close as we can get. Now you're experiencing this merging of chanting differently than I'm experiencing it, but we are experiencing something that does not include ourselves, but with the same intention, the same actions as ourselves. And we have a shared experience. And with silent meditation, you don't get that so much. You have the silence, of course, that you're sharing together, and you're, breathing together, and you're silent together. And maybe someone stirs off in the corner, makes a little rustling of their garment, or maybe the creaking of their joints. But that doesn't necessarily contribute to the meditation itself. It's just part of the landscape, part of the environment. And I don't know, maybe this is just a harebrained idea, but it is something I'm going to think about and maybe do a little writing on it as one of the benefits that we gain from chanting that maybe we don't think about. Especially if we just assume that the rest of the world sees things the same way as we do. And we know that's not true. I mean, we have Donald Trump, for one thing, who does not see the world as I do. And his worldview is a little frightening compared to mine, I think. But how do we coexist? How do we make an attempt to make our two worlds more similar? Not to make them alike, because they shouldn't be. I think they need to be different. Right. But to create space for other. Now, there's some people who just talk and really create no space for someone else to talk. And that's something to be aware of as well, is that my universe may seem really nice with me talking all the time, if I'm not worried about your universe or your world. And creating the space for someone else's views, someone else's comments. And that's one of the reasons why I think that the way I try to manage, and it's not necessarily perfect, and hopefully, there will be improvements as time goes on from other people. But that the idea, the notion of Sangha is not just about oneself. It's about oneself in conjunction with or in existence alongside of others. It's about the contribution that others make to our lives in many, many different ways. And how those people who contribute to our lives are not like us. Oftentimes, they're not anywhere near like us. There may be all kinds of differences. One, just here in the South, is that as a Buddhist, most of the time, and for the most part, I can assume that my services, the things that I benefit from in this community, are not provided by a Buddhist. To me, that's an important distinction, is that no matter how wealthy or how smart or how clever I may be, odds are I'm not self-sufficient. And in my situation, I am not self-sufficient. I depend on other people for things in my life. And the fact that they're making it or they're doing it and I'm not, and I'm just participating or partaking, does not make me better than someone else. If I were better, then I'd be doing it myself, and I'm not. And I'm dependent upon someone else. And the money transaction that takes place does not mitigate or dissolve that circumstance. It's just a way for maybe myself and others to appease any guilt or feelings of insufficiency. And I think many people suffer from masking of their own insufficiencies. We're all insufficient in many different ways, more insufficient now than in previous generations or lifetimes. We are less able to do things for ourselves than past generations. That means we're more dependent on other people to do things for us. It's not good or bad. It's just a reality. And to perceive that I am better than someone because I'm paying them to do something for me that I can't do for myself is a false idea of superiority, I think. It's true. We look down upon certain jobs, certain classes. All societies have done that. It's not right. I might look down upon the garbage collector. But if you experience a sanitation strike, that garbage collector is a pretty important person in one's existence, in living a healthy life. The garbage piles up outside for too long. Pretty soon you have disease and stuff running around in society. Same way with standing water. Standing water after floods is a real problem. That's why they go in with vaccines to treat people from all kinds of things such as that cause diarrhea, which then causes dehydration, which then increases the sanitation. So none of us is really all that great because we're able to pay someone and not do it ourselves. So it's just a reality check, if you will, and this notion of not listening, not creating space, not recognizing the value that others have in our lives. And getting back to the Sangha thing, kind of got a little spin around there, but that here I encourage people to participate. I encourage them to say something, to contribute. And on the retreats, you've heard me say, Brandon, that I believe that it's about being a producer of content as opposed to merely a consumer of content. Being a consumer, just listening, does not necessarily equal anything better. It's the give and take. It's the contribution that's important too. So we come to a Sangha activity, and here in person and live in the temple, there are things that get done. Maybe an individual may just come in and they just may pop in and leave. But my experience is that people tend to pick up their book and hold it. At least they're waiting for me to put it up, or maybe they see where others put it up. They remove their shoes before they come in. They tentatively find a place to sit until I've assured them that where they're sitting is just fine, or they need to move. The things that happen, there's the preparation to get here that takes place. Getting dressed, taking care of children if necessary, feeding oneself or figuring out where the McDonald's is between your home and here so you can get an Egg McMuffin or something. But there are things that get done. There are ways in which people contribute and participated that just in the digital realm, we don't always get. I'm guessing that many people, as they prepare to come to a service, attend a service online, that there's not the same amount of preparation as there would have been if you had to travel 15 or 20 minutes, or even half an hour. That's not good or bad, it's the reality. But then that makes participating during the service or during the meeting that much more crucial. Otherwise, it just becomes something you observe. And while I maybe just said create space to listen for other people, is that it's not good to not participate. Just merely listening doesn't mean that you're actually creating the space. It just means that you're not talking. And we want to do something more than just keeping silent and not talking. We want to participate, we want to contribute, and we want to have space for other people's voices and their views. And I'm trying to create as much space around Donald Trump as I possibly can. I'm not telling you who I'm voting for. I'm not allowed to do that by law. But yeah, I think you get an idea. And that's my views. Other people see him as a godsend or a saint even, as the answer to all of our life's problems. So there are people who really believe that. And how do we have that conversation that includes that reality as well as the real reality, which is my view? That there are many ways that people view things. Different sets of information. They're receiving information from some database, and I'm receiving information from the golden database. No, I'm just kidding. They have their input, and I have my input. They've had their life experiences.
It's 11 hours.
And nothing in my life adds up to equal that answer. And right now, maybe their understanding is that everything in their life lines up and is answered by that individual. And whether or not that's right or wrong, I think to me what's really concerning is that they're so different. There's such a wide gap between the two views. And then that becomes even more difficult to bridge the experienced realities. My reality is so far out of line with many of their realities that how do we get back to a space where we can communicate effectively? That's a challenge. It's a challenge to get people to listen. I know, talking about race, it's trying to figure out how do you open the space up for people to just listen, to not shut down something just because it's different, or to not base it on previous experiences and then say, oh, this is no different, or nothing's going to change, or why are we doing this, or what have I done that's so bad? I'm not a racist. No, that's not the problem. The problem is that we're not having conversations. And go back to all of this is about listening, really listening, not just hearing noise, but listening with intention, listening with purpose, listening to discover, and not to either validate or repute, but to just be curious, just to discover. What is this person? Who is this person? What is their story? What has shaped their lives? Not as a comparison, not in, well, that's wrong, or not from my viewpoint, but from theirs. That's really challenging, especially when conversations are really heated and emotional. And how do we create a safe space to listen and to speak? And that's one of the things I try to do here at this temple, is create a safe space that just share, just say it. I might not like it, I might disagree, but it doesn't make you wrong, or doesn't make you in any way less enlightened than me. So yeah, creating this space for other people and connecting with what they're saying, what they're sharing. I don't know what you're thinking about when you're chanting the Odaimoku. It's really none of my concern. I hear you chanting. I know you're doing it. You don't know what I'm thinking about. I give you clues at the beginning, but my mind wanders just like yours. I'm guessing yours does. And so, but I'm chanting. We're chanting together. And ultimately, I believe we're chanting for the same thing, and that is for enlightenment. So we share that. And yet, it's different. But we're trying together, and there's space for your noise, and there's space for my noise. There's space for your Odaimoku, and there's space for my Odaimoku. And they can overlap. In this instant of time, they overlap. And we create a new reality, a new experience. It's different from our solo experience. So that's just my thoughts, and open it up for comments from Brandon, or any other thoughts, or it doesn't have to be directly related, just random